So I wanted to put the work in a bit of context. I tend to sort of like the work to speak for itself, a bit like what you were saying also. But I really pay a lot of attention to the titles that I give it. They kind of can contain quite a lot of meaning, but ultimately it's about giving the work over to the people experiencing it, and then you make of it what you will, or you make meaning or not of it, sort of thing. At the same time, it has a lot of meaning for me, so there's a lot I could say about it. So I guess part of it is a lot about my work is about process. So I also work as an arts therapist, and that's really impacted and changed my practice, and it still really influences my practice in the sense that I'm less focused on like finished pieces and more interested in the process, while there may well be finished pieces like these. And the other thing about the work in general is that my work is really personal, but it's also, I really feel like it's in the context of collective, of sort of being a human being, in the context of being connected and that sort of thing. So for this work, all the images were made in the last few years, so from the start of the pandemic onwards. And these pieces, so what happened for me at the start of the pandemic is, like a lot of people, I went into a kind of fear. And then that fear and what I was being told, or what I was hearing, it kind of didn't make sense in a way. So it felt like fear was, we were being encouraged to be afraid. That's what it felt like to me. And so that made me start questioning things. And then the more I questioned, I actually became more fearful, because it's like I was finding things out, and there was so much stuff to be afraid of. And there was something, and also, so the personal context was, I had finished a relationship. It was a long-term relationship, and I was on my own for the first time in 10 years. I moved house right in the beginning of the first lockdown, and I felt really alone, and to be honest, I felt traumatized. And for me, the first point of kind of reconnecting to myself, of kind of coming home, is to go out, to be outdoors, to walk barefoot. It's just the first thing, and I know that's, so many people experience that during the pandemic and the lockdown. And it was like that for me before, but it intensified, the lockdown sort of intensified it for me. And also being alone, so, without a partner and living alone, it's, it was quite a potent sort of experience, emotionally. So partly the images that I made were, so there's images that are, so they're multi-layered images, and so some of the images that these are made of were made during that really early time when I was sort of feeling the pain, and it was quite therapeutic to make the images. And then what I do later on, when this exhibition theme came up, I was thinking a lot about what is normal, what is natural. I don't want to go back to anything, like not personally, and I don't think humanity really needs to go back. We need to evolve, we need to move forward. So what does that look like for me, based on my experience of this time? And so for me, there's something really healing about nature, but it's not just, I'm going to go into nature and have some healing. It's, I am nature. And it's so hard to put into words, and it can sound pompous, but I know myself as nature, I know it in my body. And that knowing has transformed how I see myself in context with other people. It's like, we're not really separate, we are interconnected, and that knowing kind of helps me feel less afraid, and also more able to be with all the kind of crazy polarization that's going on. And I still have feelings, so it's about like letting my feelings arise. Like I might have a reaction, I might feel a reaction to something, but I recognize that and I don't have to act on it. And it's not about being perfect or angelic, it's just about being I've really found myself able to take a step back, and kind of see a different perspective. And I feel like this work, while being therapeutic for me, there's also a desire to share my experience of the visceral feeling of connection with nature as a way of moving forward. So not going back to normal, but going back to who we are as human beings. So this one is called We Are Remembering, and the layers are sort of, I really like photographing reflections, so I like people, I like to put people in my images, but it's more about their humanity rather than individual people, which is why I like reflections. So that's a scene in London, it was reflected on a pavement, and trees, and I don't want to say too much about it because I do want you to get what you get from it, but so We Are Remembering. This one's called What Lies Behind the Mask. And this has about 5 layers, and the innermost layer, the face, which is me, doubled with a tree, and that was taken in camera, so that was a multiple exposure in the camera, and that was taken really in that first lockdown when I was feeling the most pain and sort of just really feeling that healing of just being in the tree, being with the trees. And then it's sort of multi-layered to express some of what my own sort of questioning of what's been going on, and I like the double meaning in the title, what lies, what's behind it, and what lies might there be, what truths, what untruths, what is true, what isn't true. Those are all things that I've been thinking about. This is called Alive and Well, and that's how I'm feeling now. I feel really optimistic about humanity and where we're going and what's possible, just when we simply reconnect with who we really are, beings of the earth. And that's actually dripping well as well, which I like, which is a very beautiful place in Hastings. This one is called Awakening Angel, and again, all these images that are layered here were taken during that first period where I was experiencing probably healing just from being outside, connecting with my local woods. And the film, I don't know if you've had a chance to see it yet, but all those clips I made during the lockdown periods. So the period of the first, I guess it was probably, well, there were 3 lockdowns, weren't there? So they were taken all during that time. And when I make images, I often will make an image with an idea in mind. Oh, that would be good that might make a good layer, or that might make a good piece. Or I just like the aesthetic. I feel really inspired by beauty. I think beauty is really healing. So when I decided to make this film, I didn't make it specifically for this exhibition, and it also really contains the themes of that sort of that I've been talking about, connecting with nature and going back to that in a sense, coming back to our roots in nature, and also the experience of the pandemic where for me it was quite a lot of darkness, both personally and then sort of looking at it from looking at the world around me in terms of the fear, and also moving through a place into a kind of optimism. So I wanted the film to be a kind of journey, shadow and light, and then connecting with the elements of who we are, the elements of nature. And so that's how, and so when I make something like that, and when I make the multiple exposures, I kind of, it's really interesting to put it into words because it feels a really intuitive process, and I'm totally present, and I may have the theme or a feeling in mind, and I look through my collection of images, which are relatively organized, but not completely, and then I just, oh yeah, that feels right, oh that feels right. And I'll put things together, and then I'll experiment and I'll play, and then I'll sort of settle on something that ultimately is because it feels right. So I think that's it. So, yeah. Does anybody have any questions? It's fine if you don't.
Okay, that was
much, but it's
You can
thank
actually
you.
really see you in
Oh,
this
really?
work, I think.
Oh,
You really sort of feel your presence in this work.